for our example, please open the Alpaca Orders Notebook in our course content folder. Inside of this, we're going to find a few functions that we're going to execute, and we're going to jump back and forth with our live account so that we can see these execute in real time. So before we jump into that, I do want to refer you again to the Alpaca documentation section, where they actually have great information on how to post an order of every type, so how to code examples. And we're going to show you a few, but if you don't find exactly what you want in mind, I would encourage you to go and try some of these others. So I'm going to use very simple time and force as day in most of these. So they've got others that allow you to choose different selections for the time and force, which side you want to be on, limit price, stop price, short orders. We're going to focus on a few different types, but again, this is a very, very helpful way to be able to grab that information or submit that information and figure out what you need to pass. So great documentation again. And if you go to the orders section here, you've got more information, even deeper detail on those items, what you can pass. So again, I mentioned time and force before, where I'll use day for a lot of these. You can have good till close. One closes the other. You can have all these different selections for different types. Here's the types of orders you can place. So again, great documentation that I would recommend you referencing, getting familiar with it, and then if you want to trade on these other sites, like I said, as Robinhood, TD Ameritrade, and a few others, these are going to be very helpful for you to reference so that you can even understand what to go do there. So with that, let's go ahead and actually jump into our functions. So very similar to how we start, we've got our import our Alpaca Trade APIs, Trade API, so that we can utilize our Alpaca APIs and functions. Importing pandas so that we can read our credentials from our credentials notebook. And now let's go ahead and create each of our functions and log into our API. So here we're creating our API login for Alpaca by accessing, again, our credentials notebook to get our API and our secret key. We're going to the paper account and version 2. I'm going to show you something additional in this section, something I wanted to do since we recommended looking at securities, especially when you look at things that are shortable. So we are going to look quickly at Apple, and we're going to get asset information and look through all what we can see when we see an asset. So again, we used shortable earlier in our EMA strategy, but I want to show you the additional information you can get from a security such as Apple. For our 3 order types, we chose a market order, a limit order, and a bracket order. So I'm going to actually explain all 3 of these functions here at once versus jumping back and forth like we typically do, because they're all pretty similar. So to place the orders, to place these different types of orders, they are going to require different inputs. You can see here I've shown you that for these versions, but if you want to place a different type of order, you can, again, reference the documentation and go in here and figure out which one you want to pass, what types of information it needs, and then even get how to code examples. So for our order types, we can see that we're going to utilize the API.submit order for each of these. It's going to be the same type. The difference is going to come in what type of order we're passing it. So in here it's a market order, and here it's a limit order, and here we're going to also be passing it a market order, but in this one we're going to pass it an order class as a bracket. So we can do a limit bracket order as well, so there are even different types of bracket orders within the Alpaca trading or Alpaca submit order API section. So here we're going to pass each of these just different types of information. So if I'm passing a market order, I want to be able to tell it the symbol that I want to trade and how many I want to trade for this market order type. So here I'm going to call my API, I'm going to give it a symbol, I'm going to assign the symbol is equal to our input. I'm going to assign it a quantity, so Alpaca needs the QTY value of your call to be equal to a quantity. I'm going to tell it the side is equal to buy, the type is equal to market, and the time and force is going to be equal to day for our example. So I'm simply going to have 2 configurable inputs to the market order, which is the symbol and the amount that I want to buy. For the limit order, I'm going to pass it the symbol, the quantity, and also our limit value. So symbol, again, equal to symbol, quantity equal to quantity, value that we're passing here. It's going to be a by type. I want to place a limit order, and I want the limit price to be this limit, so something greater than the, or sorry, something you're comfortable purchasing the price at. It doesn't need to be greater than, less than, or equal to. It's just if I want to buy Apple and it's trading around 150 for the day and I'm only comfortable getting in if it's less than 149, I can put that 149 price in there so that I get executed at or better than that 149 if the price were to dip below for that limit type. And then lastly, again, my personal favorite is the bracket order. So this, I'm going to pass it again, a symbol, a quantity, a stop price, and a limit price. So what this means is, again, I'm going to assign a symbol, quantity, as side is going to be buy, it's going to be a market order, it's going to be good until closed, but I'm also going to pass it an order class of a bracket, letting it know that I want it to accept additional items and not just a limit price or a stop price for a stop order. So in this, I'm going to tell it I want two additional things. I want to set a stop loss value, which is going to be equal to my stop price, and I also want to set a take profit value, which is going to be equal to the other side, right? So this is going to be an order, a bracket order that will buy shares for me of Apple. In our example here, we're going to use Apple. It'll buy shares of Apple for me at a desired quantity, and it will also simultaneously place two orders that will cancel each other if one of these things become true. So if my stop price is hit, if I get below, so for example, if Apple's trading at 150 and I'm comfortable holding it all the way down to 125, I'm going to pass it that I want a stop price of 125. Or you can make that 1%, and you can calculate that 1% value of what that currently is. Same with your limit price. I'm buying Apple at 150 and I want this program to know that I want to sell it if it hits 175, for example. So you're in this same order, in this same line, I am telling Alpaca I want to place an order, a market order for Apple, but I also want to place two orders that will monitor the top and the bottom side and protect me either way. So I can get out at a profit I'm comfortable taking, and I can get out if it loses too much money on this particular trade. So again, personal favorite, and there's a lot of different configurability even to what I have here to the market orders or to the bracket orders, because you can set trailing stops. It doesn't have to just be a stop and a limit. I just like doing that for my own trading purposes. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and look at each of these items and what they do when we execute this. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this block, and as always, we're calling functions, we're assigning things here, so nothing is very specifically happening as far as, placing the trades until we get down to this section, but we're going to go through each of these and explain what has happened. All right, so I said at the beginning that I wanted to show you one quick tidbit in here as well, where we're going to assign AAPL, the variable AAPL, to the get asset call from the Alpaca API. So we use this to find whether Apple was shortable earlier, and in this, instead, I'm actually going to, and you know what, I need to give this a symbol before it will actually execute. So now we're going to rerun this. And with AAPL, we're going to now run this down here and see what values have come back. So before, when we grabbed this, we just grabbed shortable. So we wanted to find out if Apple was shortable. But you can see in here that there is also other values that you may care about. So you may want to know what stock exchange you're looking at to trade on. Is it fractionable, meaning that I can trade in values less than one share? I can trade in tenths of a share or hundredths of a share if I don't maybe want to trade in full shares for a stock. I can check whether that stock is currently active on the market, whether it's tradable within Alpaca. So there are many things in here that are very helpful. So just wanted to quickly show you that. And if you want to only get a certain value back, if I go to AAPL, now that this is all assigned to that, and I want to get just the shortable value, just like we did before, rerun this, it's going to only return what was under that shortable section. Alright, so now let's go ahead and exit a few of our trades. So down here in these lines, we are actually going to execute a few trades to our live paper account utilizing these different types. So since we've already ran this, these are active. We're already logged in. This notebook is running, so we're going to go ahead and with our first one and place a market order. So this market order, we're going to pass it the symbol AAPL, and we're going to tell it we want to buy 10 of them. So there's our two inputs, and we're saying run alpaca market order and tell it give me Apple and give me 10 shares. So run this, give me Apple, give me 10 shares. So let's go ahead, execute, and you will actually see that we now have a new buy order that was placed at our current time on our current date for 10 shares of Apple. Now, of course, market is closed. It closed 8 minutes ago, actually, as of this recording. So it is not going to fill until the next open time of the market from your broker. But you can see that we have placed this order. To go ahead and cancel on Alpaca, if you want to cancel, you can click this X. We're going to learn how to cancel orders later, but if you want to cancel that so it doesn't interfere with anything or mess with you, you can't click that. Click cancel order, and it will cancel that. Alright, same, we're going to now run our limit order. Here we are going to pass it again Apple, quantity of 10, and a limit price of 130. So we're going to call Alpaca limit order. We're going to tell it Apple, quantity of 10, and a limit price of 130. Of course, it's trading higher than 130 at this time, but to show you what that looks like, you can now see as soon as we place that, a limit buy order has been placed at 130 for 10 shares of Apple. If Apple on the next market open is to dip below $130 per share, we will then be executed at a price of 130 or better on 10 shares of Apple. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this order and then run our last order type, which is our bracket order. So with this, I don't know if Apple's trading at 150 or not for the day, so I'm going to go ahead and make this something like 175 for our profit target. So for our bracket order, again, my personal favorite, we're going to pass it a symbol, a quantity, a stop price, or what I'm comfortable taking a loss at, and a profit price, a profit target, or what I'm comfortable selling at. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to execute this, which is going to call our bracket function, pass these values, and then execute this submit order to Alpaca. So now you actually just saw that one come in live. So we have a value here that says new, held, and held. So new is going to actually be our market order for those 10 shares. So this is placing that order and telling it on your next open, give me 10 shares of Apple, whatever, regardless of price, since it's a market order. Simultaneously, it will now fill two orders, or one cancels the other order of a stop sell and a limit sell. When I get these shares, if at any time while I own these shares of these 10, these specific 10, it crosses below that $100 threshold of share price, it will automatically trigger a sell order and get rid of our shares at the price of 100 or better. On the sell side, 100 or better, it'll try to get as close to that 100 as possible. Typically, I've got pretty good order execution, so it typically stays around that value that I set it at, but it could be, slightly worse. It just will trigger that sell order, and then try to execute that for you at the best available price. And then same on the sell side. If this value, if I get these executed and this price ramps up to 175 without me doing anything, Alpaca will execute an exit order and sell these at 175 or better. So you will actually get a price of 175 for that sell. So if your market buy ends up being 150, and a couple weeks later Apple takes a good run up and hits that 175 and you haven't looked at your account, you will sell for that price difference. Vice versa, if something happens, Apple starts to tank and you bought it at 125 and now it's all of a sudden at 100, you will have that loss, but you will be protected from that downside by putting in that stop loss. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel, and this will cancel all three of these line items. Okay, so now to wrap up this section, I would recommend that you play with these order types again. Change quantities, change symbols, change your symbol here in your API.get asset, and rerun this and see what information comes back for DraftKings, for again BABA, that we've talked about in some of the previous sections. Change the quantities, maybe even add your own order type in here, and then go back and say, okay, if I wanna actually stick with Robinhood. Great. Robinhood has great documentation which will show you how to do these exact things. You'll just have to log into Robinhood, make sure that you're using their correct API to submit the order, and then giving it the correct information that is needed to submit these same type of orders. All right, with that, again, please practice, reach out with any questions, and in our next section we will actually review our open order book and our current holdings and their outlook. Thank you.